The top 10 health technology trends to watch in 2022.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if it's afternoon or evening yet. I don't know where everybody's at with their time zone. But hi, I'm Natalie Yeadon. I'm the co-founder and CEO with a company called Impetus Digital. We work mainly with global pharmaceutical companies to help them with collaboration and communication. Certainly this has been huge since COVID, but we've been working for about 14 years with companies across the globe to help them work with their physicians, payers, allied healthcare providers, patients, to be able to work and move strategy asynchronously and synchronously. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is not so much about selling you my company. I'm going to talk to you about some of the really interesting insights that we oftentimes see in the discussions that are going on asynchronously and synchronously with our clients. And some of these I've actually put together in basically some of the top 10 trends that we're hearing, already having conversations with pharmaceutical companies and healthcare in general. So one of the first things I want to talk about is really, the first trend is really around remote diagnostics and monitoring. How many people here have recently gone in to actually see your physician in the last 6 months? You've seen one. Oh my, you're doing it the old-fashioned way. What's really interesting here is obviously since COVID, yes, we used to go see our physicians and nurses in person, but COVID has actually changed everything. Everything has gone upside down since then. So this whole idea of remote diagnostic and monitoring, everything from telemedicine to, of course, all of the different diagnostics that we're seeing at home that we used to actually be doing in person. So everything from blood pressure cuffs, 24-hour glucose monitors, Bluetooth otoscopies, all sorts of things are happening at home. Now, what's really awesome about this is if you were going to participate in a clinical trial before, you had to cart yourself over to a hospital, go see somebody, have them check your blood results, cart yourself back home and do it all over again the next day. It was very difficult to get into it, and there was only certain kinds of investigators involved. Now with this idea of remote monitoring and these remote diagnostics, we can actually equip patients at home to do their own patient-reported outcomes. So we're in fact enabling people to expand and be able to service underprivileged areas and remote areas and be able to have a lot more inclusion and diversity in clinical trials. The next trend that we have been seeing and hearing in our online collaboration platform, is this reason why it's actually, there we go, is really point of care testing. Now, of course, we've always seen point of care testing, pregnancy tests. We've actually seen, blood glucose monitoring tests, even some companies like 𝐉𝐨𝐬𝐬 doing your microbiome. But actually, COVID-19 is this other version of point-of-care testing. We've seen that we had to accelerate this. We didn't have a lot of lab space. There was a huge need, and we wanted to be able to enable people to do this at home without a lot of skills and without a lot of expense. So this has exploded the market. Now we have rapid HIV testing, all kinds of things around diabetes monitoring, and even acute brain injury monitoring. So this market is really, really exploding. Of course, we have to be careful with this because these things at best help you to triage, doesn't necessarily make sure that we are overcoming the traditional lab tests like a PCR test. The third trend was really around molecular and genomic testing. So this is the typical idea around doing genetic testing. We're not talking about whole genome testing, which is very expensive and not accessible to the average person. This is the kind of thing where you do the swab of your cheek, you send it in through a company like 23andMe, and back you get your results to find out what weight management strategies you need, what you need around exercise, and more importantly, around the kinds of drugs that are going to resonate with your genetics. So all kinds of things are going to be happening here in the world, moving forward with the whole world around genetic testing. Not only, like I said, the drugs that you're going to resonate with, but we also have to start thinking about pre-screening for babies, in vitro fertilization, and again, the whole world around CRISPR. What is it going to mean to live forever as we start to think about telomeres, and what are we going to do with DNA in the future and around our genetics? Again, we have to be careful, again, when you start to think about the dystopic portion of this, is what could this mean around potentially human cloning and other issues around genetic selection and modification. So again, there's always this dystopic side that we need to be careful about. Trend number 4, again, is health apps. This whole conference is about gamification and wearables. We see this everywhere. Fitness trackers, bracelets, Oura rings, things that are going to be embedded into our clothing. We're not going to be able to move without something sensing us ambiently. And what's interesting, I don't need to go over this, we've talked about this ad nauseum in this conference, is really about the games, the leaderboards, the incentivization, the NFTs, the games that are going to encourage us to go into a wellness place. When you're beating yourself, the odds of yourself, you're having an N=1 trajectory of your healthcare, and so you're not just really another number in a whole population. So very exciting about what the world is going to look like in the area of apps and wearables. Trend number 5 is around companion diagnostics. In pharmaceutical companies, they oftentimes, in the old world, if, for example, you had diabetes, they would administer a medication to you and hope that somehow you are going to respond to that drug. Well, we know, of course, that not everybody is going to respond to every drug just because you have that particular precondition. Now what we're actually finding is when we go into sort of the genetic variation associated with that particular disease or condition, we might be able to find specific medications for your genetic type. And so now we have these biomarkers or diagnostics that enable us to increase the efficacy of drugs for you. So this is what we're talking about, the start and the expansion of precision medicine, getting so personalized that you can almost inevitably realize that you're going to be either cured or your condition is going to be majorly overcome. So very exciting in this area. But again, some complications. As we start to think about market access, we know that healthcare is going through the roof in terms of costs. So now we're having this idea of not only do we have to worry about paying for the drug, but what are we going to do also about these diagnostics and biomarkers that are coming? So it could become a very expensive proposition. Trend number 6 is about voice technology. Again, we probably talked about this a lot in this conference, but so many exciting things happening here. We don't need to get into all the details because we already know almost all of us have something like this in our home. But just thinking about how the home, and quite frankly, the car, is going to transform into becoming the hospital of the future. So if we think about some of the acoustical things that, for example, a voice assistant is going to hear, as we start to think about seniors aging at home, and you can actually start to hear and potentially predict if there's going to be a fall, which is one of the major reasons for hospitalizations and death with some of our seniors in society. And we can also start to think about pharma companies and many other apps that are being applied to these voice assistants to become basically drug compendiums. So you can basically ask this voice assistant anything, and you can help to manage your side effects, be getting notifications about your drugs or when to take it to really help improve adherence, and so many other things that we're probably going to be seeing in the transformation of home as becoming the in-house hospital of the future. Artificial intelligence is the other topic that obviously is the key theme in this conference. AI in healthcare is everywhere. Healthcare right now is truly one of the most disruptable industries out there today. AI is really making that happen. Machine learning, smart algorithms, smart contracts. It's in the robotic surgical suite. It's happening with smart inhalers for people with asthma. Being able to adjust insulin levels for people with diabetes, and the list goes on. Data management, instant translation, database of data, and really the dissemination in the interoperability. It's incredible what is happening on this front, and I'm sure that a lot of people here are already thinking and working on technologies that are going to be applied directly in the healthcare space. Augmented and virtual reality, again, we keep talking about gaming, but how does this look in the medical space? So what's really exciting here as well too is when we think about the typical brand when we buy medication, it comes in a box and it's boring. So what can we actually do with AR? You put your phone on top of the box and suddenly it becomes alive. You're going to get a video of somebody who's actually taking your drug, or who has a similar condition, and you're hearing interviews. or you're getting other kinds of information that you would have never got because it's too boring to read the label on a drug box. In addition to this, we're talking about the addition of statistics, MRIs, X-rays right in the surgical suite as a physician is about to operate. So we're making this surgical suite so much smarter with artificial reality as well. And of course, VR, we're talking about headsets and what people are doing in their healthcare space. So we're dealing with people with phobias and addictions, all kinds of ways around cognitive behavioral therapy and what we're doing in the mental health space. Of course, a very important topic, especially since COVID-19. So many other different ways, even with physicians doing empathy training, learning actually how to deal with surgeries before they're going in to do the actual work, and so many other incredible applications. And as we even think about seniors, as we start to look at these things, or end of life, what a beautiful thing to be able to put something on and be able to go into a world of your luxury and enjoyment. So a wonderful way for people to age. We've already heard some people talking about digital twins, but what does this mean in the medical space? Well, we know that every single time you put information into the internet, we actually are starting to create mathematical models of who you are. So in the future, instead of all these very expensive phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials, doing trials actually in after phase 4, after a product has been launched, we can do these things almost like tissue in silica. We can do these trials and testing of new drug innovations right on your mathematical model and your digital twins. So in fact, we can find out before we even give you the drug that 1, you're going to respond, and 2, you're not going to experience a lot of side effects. So this is going to be a very exciting world about us leveraging the digital twin in the medical space. And of course, lots of discussion today about blockchain, what it means for healthcare, for drug supply, making sure that we're also maintaining and reducing any kinds of counterfeit. But certainly the idea about decentralized autonomous organizations and smart contracts between patients and the sponsors or pharma companies, and potentially removing the the intermediaries like private insurance companies. So for example, if the embedded sensors or the ambient biometrics that you're absorbing, if you're a diabetic, for example, and it notices that your blood sugar levels have decreased, it actually transmits that information, the contract actually completes, and actually the money is actually sent over to your the pharmaceutical company. Hence, getting rid of all of that confusion around different kinds of agreements and risk sharing, et cetera. It really will help to optimize that whole area around payments in the pharmaceutical and healthcare space. But certainly there's tons and tons of applications, and I know we've heard a lot about those today. So these are just some of the ideas and things that we have heard in our collaboration platform at Impetus Digital. We have these conversations all the time across the globe with physicians and allied healthcare providers, with pharmaceutical global companies who are trying to create some ideas beyond the pill, and also trying to do some very strategic things to get us from a sickness care model into a wellness care model. So lots of exciting things here, and I'm sure you all are looking forward to applying any of the new technologies that you're working on in the healthcare space. Thanks very much.